Relationships and putting the I back into intimacy. Today I have some very special guests here with us from the Texoma Wellness Center in Texas, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Dave Tuck.
Hi, Tina.
And his lovely wife, Tania.
Hi, Tina.
I want to thank you folks for being here and coming in. And, you know, I think it's really important to talk about why we want to have that I, which would be me, the individual, at really the forefront of our relationships. And I think sometimes we forget, and especially in Hawaii, we tend to want to do so much for others that we sort of fade ourselves out and forget to put our own unique expression and ourself at the forefront in our relationships. So that's why I asked you folks to come and speak about, you know, how do we do that? How do we, when we're doing so many things for others, and everything is about relationships. You know, how do I put that I and when I'm used to putting the focus on everyone else? And what is the benefits of doing that type of model, of putting the I in the intimacy? So thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you. There was one story that I heard, well, it's not a story, it's a true fact, that when you're on an aeroplane and they drop down the oxygen masks, they say put yours on first. Don't put your oxygen mask on your child because you're needed. There's not much point in having a child that's okay, but you're not okay. And so this is sort of the place that we're starting from. We believe that actually you need to look after you to be able to serve others even better than you would. If you are working for everybody else and finding yourself tired, not looking after yourself, not looking after your needs and your desires of what you want, actually you end up burning out. You end up not feeling happy, and something's going to give.
And so a lot of times when we're so busy doing everything for everyone else, why is that, you think, a common thread that you see amongst people that you work with?
I think sometimes we're taught that as we're growing up, that you put yourself behind everyone else, and I think there's a space to where the most important thing is to know yourself. What drives you? Who are you? What are your desires? What do you really want to fulfill here in your life? And when you're real centered in that, and you know yourself, and you can love yourself for that, and then you connect to yourself. That drives you to have a fulfilling, inspiring life, and it drives your energy, and that really creates a whole scene for everyone else in your life to feed off of you, and that just empowers everyone, I think, when you can start with yourself first.
So it's a new way of looking at your service, that you recognize the importance of taking care of yourself so that in return you can give that service and energy and inspiration to others, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
So what would be some ways to start to look at my own individual, because what I'm hearing is what you're saying, Dave, is that my relationship with myself first is the reflection that I need to look at, and then the relationships with others. So what are some things I should do to start to identify the I in my own intimacy?
Okay.
Well, I think that, again, knowing yourself, which is knowing each of us have our own drives and the things that are important to us, and they're called your values. And so when you can really know your values and what's driving you, and why you do the things you do, and why you make the decisions that you make, and understanding that first gives you a really good insight on where you want to go in your life. And I think that's the first step, is knowing your values, knowing your drives, and then starting from there.
So how would I figure out, or how would I identify what my values are for myself?
Well, you can ask yourself some core questions. Your life is reflecting who you are, as you go around your life.
But sometimes I don't. You ask that, and most people think of values of the value that they're getting at the store. What am I saving money on? But when you ask that as a level of the person, most people never stop and say, what are my values?
Well, we're asking you to stop and reflect, to actually take a moment for yourself and go, okay, so what's going on in my life, and what do I like about my life? What is important to me? What do I think about? How do I spend my time? How do I spend my money? What do I do with myself?
So it's sort of an inventory?
Sort of, yes. Seeing which ways do you spend your money? Which ways do you spend your time?
So is it something I would list? I should sit down and like sort of make a list with the questions and is it what I want to be doing, or is it what I'm actually doing?
Definitely what you're doing now. Because what that will show you is whether or not you're being true to yourself, or whether you're living according to other people's rules for yourself. So coming back to yourself is actually being able to sift through what's going on in your life and deciding, well, is this how I want it to stay? Am I happy with this, or do I need to shift something and make it different?
Good. Well, I think that when you take a reflection at your life and you really get, you ask these quality questions: how do you spend your time? How do you spend your money? How do you spend your energy? What do you set your goals on? It's going to reflect in your life. And I think some people think that they should be doing other things and that they should be living their life according to what other people think. And the reality is that's not true. Because
especially, too, for younger people. They have a lot of what their parents' hopes are.
And I think that when people live their life according to what other people think or other people's values, then there's inside of them there's a lack of inspiration and a drive. And whenever you can get real centered on your inspiration and what drives you, and you can live according to that, that is a whole different level of being an inspired being and living a life that is true to you. And I think that when we're living like that, and we're in the world fulfilling our mission, then that brings about a whole different level of energy and creation for your life that you can have.
And, you know, it doesn't sound like this is something we're really taught in school, you know, to look at what our values are. And so even for parents, a lot of times they have aspirations for what they want their child to be, but they're not taking the time to see what it is that the child values. Right. So this is not something only for relationships, for partners or older people, but this is something that for children and for parents to, so it's actually something that's can be used across so many areas.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as we're talking about it in intimacy, it's really important in relationships as well, to know where you are in your relationship with another. You know, when you come into a new relationship with somebody, you can get quite infatuated with what they're about. You know, you think about what they want and you can lose yourself.
You might conform to that.
Yeah, that's what they like, and so you do what they want.
Yeah, I think that's a very common thing that we see when we're coaching clients is they might subordinate themselves to others or in a relationship, and you know, put themselves below it and try to say all the right things and try to be a certain way so that they will be liked by the other person. And what's happening is they stop expressing their true being.
So you're masking who you are.
And you create an infatuation experience where you put them more on a pedestal, and you might put yourself down in a so-called pit. And sooner or later, that causes some resentment to build up against that person, because you realize, going, wait a minute, what about me in this relationship? What about my needs and my wants? And so in the beginning, if you can start out by understanding each other's values and communicating those values in terms of caring, to where you know what they're about and you communicate your values in terms of theirs, that creates more of a win-win relationship. And that's kind of what we try to teach our clients, that you actually can have a win-win relationship.
That's very fascinating. So sometimes when we're not valuing ourselves and we are injecting other people's what they want for us or what their ideas and thoughts, that can also, you had mentioned, create stress, which can add to create more disease in the body. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we have a model that we go by. It's called our rich model. And the identity is in the middle, and you have your relationship, your career, and your health. And so when you start getting off of who you are and you start subordinating yourself or maybe putting someone else on a pedestal, it does create an internal stress. And that internal stress does create a physical illness in your body, and then that can...
So if it's prolonged.
If it's prolonged, and that can add to issues with your current relationship or in your career, and like I said, your health, and then you become less inspired about life.
So they're sort of all tied within, because a lot of times we're not identifying where they're all tied in with each other.
Yes.
What we believe our model is sort of like a kind of triangle. And what we want is for people to think of their lives, the relationship, their career, and their health in sort of an equal balance. You know, what happens is if you are in your relationship and you've got a bit of a problem in that area, what we see is that you can actually have issues in your career, or it will cause health issues.
Because you get distracted.
Yeah.
Right.
But likewise, you can be in your career, and that will knock on to having problems at home with your relationships because you're constantly worrying about things there. And then that can also give you sleepless nights and illness problems about, you know, your health and things. And then likewise, your health can have some wobbles, as we call it, and you will then find that that will affect how you are in your relationships, and your career will be affected too. So all of these things can cause us to have ups and downs in our lives, and what we like to do is to make sure that the person is right there in the middle, you know, and when you come back to yourself and you're feeling all the wobbles and you're feeling, who am I and why am I here and what's going on in my life? You know, if you can bring yourself back to your center and just focus on, okay, so what is it that I really want? And then from that place, when you know who that person is, look at your relationship and say, how am I getting this? What's happening for me here? And then you look at your career in that way, and then you can look at, what do I need to do for my health to make myself feel vibrant and powerful?
Yeah, we feel, you know, when you start with yourself and focus your life around what it is you would love to experience and what does inspire you, it is possible from that to create your ideal relationship, and then to create your ideal job where you can actually do what you love doing, and then create your ideal health where you can have lifelong health and wellness where you feel inspired, energetic, and then, you know, when we feel inspired, energetic, obviously that relates to every area of our life.
And it's actually is a very different energy, you know, because when you're questioning and you're doubting and you know, it's denser, you know, that, and it's not like you're not going to have the wobbles, or you're going to have the, you know, times where, you know, you have those maybe down days, but
Right.
it's what I hear is you're having more of an even keel and not so much fluctuations.
Well, there will always be fluctuations in your life, but your coping mechanism, the way you can handle it, the way you, the tools that we can give people, the tools we share with people, is to basically be less affected by it, because you can see that it's serving you in some way.
So even the negative day, you have them reflect back, and how did that negative help you?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what are the benefits of this, and what skills have I got, and who have I had to be in touch with? And so what you're doing is you're kind of bringing it back, so it's not such a bad day. It's actually been okay. It's had its challenges, but the challenges have taught you something, or made you think about things.
Or maybe let
way.
someone in your life that otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone's experienced times where your life's like a roller coaster, where you seem to be up one day, and then you're really down the next day, and you're really up one day. And we like to teach people tools to keep you more of a even keel, because it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be more of a nice wave. And so if you can keep the volatility down to where you're not up and down so far, you know, that creates way less stress, and you can quickly recenter yourself back. When you have a little wobble, you can use these tools and really quickly recenter back and keep on going toward your vision.
Okay, so we talked about doing the inventory. What's some other practical things that we could do in our daily lives that would help us to focus on the rich model, where we're thinking and balancing the relationship, the health, and the career?
Well, the first thing I would say is to start where you're at. You know, you need to really have a good look, and we were talking about earlier about reflecting. And I think that, you know, to give yourself time, because we're always on the go and we're always moving forward and thinking, well, what's coming next? And, well, let's just stop and look at, well, okay, where am I at? If I'm feeling uncomfortable in my life in a certain area, particularly, say, relationship, you know, then we need to look at that and say, okay, what is it? What's going wrong? What's not right for me? So where am I right now?
And I think that, you know, stopping and looking at your life and really defining where are you right now, and getting really clear on, okay, this is who I am, this is my relationship, this is my career, this is my health, this is who I am. And then having gratitude for being where you are, because no matter where you are is the perfect place to start to create whatever it is you want to create, because we actually can create the ideal relationship, the ideal career, the ideal health, and it's going to start exactly where you are today. And so having a gratitude for where you are right now will give you that springboard to launch you into wherever it is you'd love to wherever you'd love to be and create.
And what are different ways that people, you know, because some people will journal their gratitude, but what's some other ways that maybe they can, because sometimes you might be at a point where the car just broke down and the kids' diapers are full and you need to get to wherever you're going, and it's hard to be in that gratitude moment. So how would you ask someone, or what would be some simple ways you would ask someone to pull that and start to see things a little different?
Well, in the moment it might be quite hard, you know, but it's about giving yourself the space, and so creating that space. So who can you call to just give yourself some time? Who can you be in touch with to just take the kids off your hands for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or get them in bed with, you know, once they're in bed, just give yourself, don't worry about the washing, you know, just give yourself some time. Because we're very good at sort of busying our lives and getting, you know, getting busier, and then we pile into bed to sleep, and then we get up the next day and it all starts. So what we're saying is, no, just stop. Say, okay.
So take some breaths.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah, and
Slow it down.
I think it also, you know, when we're feeling stress, which we all do, you know, the stress is just a signal from your body that something's just out of balance. And so I think that...
Well, and there are some positive stresses,
of course,
too.
and I think that when you can actually look at stress from a side of, well, how is this actually serving me and benefiting me, it always is going to go back to somehow you've gotten away from you. And so that stress is actually a really important feedback mechanism for everyone to look and say, okay, I'm feeling really stressed. Where am I off? Where am I out of center? Where am I out of balance? And it's going to be something in the rich model where your relationship, your career, your health, there's something kind of out of balance. So it gives you a good space to go and reflect and say, okay, how can I recenter myself now?
And so then you're saying, and also sort of plan.
Yeah, so you define, that gives you your sort of A point, your starting point, and then you need to really look at designing what is it that you would like it to be like. I mean, if you've got stresses in your relationships, well, what is it that you'd like? Because each of those things is very personal too, you know. What we want from our relationships, what we want from our career and health, they're all very individual to where we're at in our lives, which era we're in, you know. I mean...
And we were talking at dinner, and you said sometimes it's important, for especially couples, to look at the way they're communicating and perhaps start to identify their love languages. Can you talk a little bit, because it's not something, you know, a lot of people are thinking about, or you know, it's not a subject that I've heard often. So what do you mean communicating in people's love languages?
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, we're talking about intimacy in this, and that's usually what people would really like in their relationship. So they might have said, okay, this is where I'm at, and I don't like it, and this is what I'd really like. But getting to communicate what they want is really tough for them.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that,
and we all do that in different ways.
We do, and creating intimacy. I think people to be intimate, you know, is about building that communication and feeling like you're being heard and feeling like you're understood and appreciated. And there are certain ways that each of us respond to that. I mean, everyone has a different love language, such as, you know, we had a couple clients where, you know, her love language was, you know, she liked to hear things from her husband, and he actually thought that if he gave her nice things, that was his language. He's showing her he loved her. But she wasn't able to really recognize that.
She didn't value that as much.
Not as much, because it wasn't her language. And so when he started understanding that, well, her love language is, I just need to verbalize things, and she really likes the gifts, but they don't really say I love you as well as actually him speaking that. And so when you can really know a person's love language, it really opens up more intimacy and connection, and that's what creates that bond between two people when they're in a relationship.
So we sort of have a responsibility to figure out and find out what the other person is.
But I also think that I find sometimes that the one person who is wanting more intimacy is saying, well, they should know this already, but that's not actually true. It is a responsibility of the person who wants to feel understood, is to express what it is. What are your desires and needs to your partner, and how is it that they can show you that they love you in your way? So then that gives them a chance to actually fulfill that.
So if you've never told them, then you shouldn't be upset that they don't know that.
No, you shouldn't, and that gives you a good opportunity to express that and open that communication up. And that's one of the biggest problems we see, I think, with our clients is the communication is just not there because they haven't understood how to actually do that.
And sometimes, like you said, in the busyness of the day, and especially as you start to have families, it's even more gray areas because you may not have those one-on-one moments like you did when you first started your relationship.
It is so important to give yourself your relationship space. You know, when the children arrive in a relationship, you know, you're all hands on deck, being parents 24/7, and suddenly you're stuck, thinking, who is this man that I was married to? You know, I don't even know what his name is anymore. Yeah. So to create space for you two is really important. Really, at the very beginning, as much as you want to stay with your baby and everything, as soon as you feel that it's fine, I think you should really put things in your schedule so that you can actually have time out, time together, you know, doing fun things, remembering what you fell in love with, who you fell in love with. And, you know, that is totally, again, it's an oxygen mask to your relationship. You know, that's really important.
Yeah. And I think one of the issues that we've seen is, you know, couples are together and they have kids, and then 18 years later when the kids move out, they look at each other and go, who are you? I forgot what you like. I forgot how to talk to you because they've been so wrapped up in the kids. So, like Tanya said, creating that space throughout your marriage and or relationship to where you can continue to spend time together, do the things you love doing together, and remembering those things that brought you together is really very valuable.
Yeah, you're both people and parents. You know, the people that you fell in love with are still there underneath the layers of diapers and other things. You know, and to make sure that you see that person still is really important. Otherwise, when they do leave, you're stuck with a stranger sometimes. And to see who that person is, again, means you've got to start, which is also...
So rekindling.
Yes, rekindling. But, you know, at this point, it's again, looking at where you really are. What do you want to design? What is it that you want out of your relationships in the next era of your life?
And I think one proactive thing we try to teach people to do is go ahead and look at some of the limiting beliefs that you may have going in.
And what do you mean by limiting beliefs? Because I think a lot of time that term is not ever out there.
Well, I think that you know, there are limiting beliefs and obstacles that we think we have, and if we don't address those ahead of time, when they do come up in the relationship, then we don't know how to handle that. And so, you know, it's all things like we were taught by our parents or our society, that, you know, I can't have this ideal relationship, or, you know, everything has
so the roadblocks. The
roadblocks.
And sometimes they're ingrained. We're not even conscious of the roadblocks.
Yeah, yeah.
But other things, we just might think we're not good enough. You know, we might think that we're not worthy of something.
Devaluing ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you have those kind of fears, roadblocks, anything going on, it's to actually, again, reflect on them. Say, what is it that's stopping me? Why aren't I moving forward? What is what are we having the roadblock about?
And what are the potential roadblocks that may come along as we go along in this relationship? What are some of the limiting beliefs that we both have as a couple? You know, and it could be wrapped around career or money or health.
Because is money a big one, especially in our modern, what's going on globally?
It's a big stressor in relationships. You know, especially if somebody's found that they either didn't get the promotion that they were thinking and their house price has just gone up, or their mortgage is bigger than it was, or they lose their job, and that can put a huge pressure on, you know, the dynamic between the two people.
Right, and if there's already kind of a weak connection there, when these stresses come up, it can really cause a lot of issues with the relationship. And so, you know, it's really important that communication stays open from the beginning, so that you can create that strong connection. So when obstacles do come along, which they will, you can be more of a team and handle that.
So you can tackle it.
Yes.
You had mentioned that one thing you folks see with helping people to balance out these areas, it actually can help them to have better health, which actually helps to save money also.
Absolutely. You know, as a chiropractor, I see just every day how, you know, people spend lots and lots of money on getting themselves well, going through the model of having to get treatments.
So we have actually a sort of disease model currently.
We do. We have a disease model for sure. And, you know, I try to educate the patients on, prevention is much easier than correction. And so if you can learn how to empower yourself to take care of yourself by listening to your body and understanding what the body's symptoms are trying to tell you, you can actually correct a lot of things on your own. And it's much easier to stay well than it is to get well.
And a lot of this can start with mental health.
Absolutely.
And then, because sometimes the mental health stress, so the stress of worries and other things, is what the physical body in the disease actually is accumulation of.
We sort of talk it in terms of emotional wellness. That when you think about what's going on in your life and feeling that you can handle the stresses that will come up and all these lumps and bumps, the roadblocks in your life, if you know that you can handle them, you're going to feel much more empowered to move forward. And so what we want people to do once they've designed it is to take action. Look at those limiting beliefs, but take action, then look again, and keep going, and you get momentum going through, because little steps towards those goals will get you there. But by getting fearful of what's going on and then saying, oh, I'm not going to change anything because it's not worth it, is
I think we find most people, they have good ideas about what they want to create, but they just don't have a good solid plan.
Yeah.
And so helping people create an actual plan that works for them about from their identity, for who they are, and centering that plan around that, really makes it possible to take those action steps towards somewhere and go from, we like to go get people from where they are to where they would love to be, and it's all about creating a plan to do that.
And so the plan would be in those areas. So you look at your health. What can you do every day that would improve and help you balance health? Career, what can you do every day? Because everybody has a different career, and jobs are changing. What a job or what your inspiration is. And then the other one, relationships, so what you could do.
Yeah, and what's authentically you? I mean, everyone's unique. Everyone's specially, we've all got our own talents. And our challenges give us some authority in things. We learn from our challenges, and so that makes us have authority in that area. We can help other people, we can talk to other people because we know what it's about, and so to recognize those skills and things is really important.
Well, I want to really thank you both for being here, and if someone wanted to get a hold of you folks, what's the best way?
Well, we have a website, www.empowerful.com, and we have phone numbers, I suppose.
Sure, you can 903-814-5283 is my direct line. Tanya?
903-818-7227.
Or they could always call me and
Tina.
email me. Yeah, so I
Sure.
want to thank you for being here on Pathways to Paradise, and look forward to doing more with you folks.
It's been a real pleasure, Tina.
Yeah,
thank you for
very
having
much.
us today.
Thank you.
Yeah.